Welcome to My Time to Shine. I'm your host, Emily. Hi, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest on, Adam. He has actually been my coach for the last 3 months, and I want to share a little bit about that. But Adam, big welcome to my podcast. And if you could do a little bit of an introduction about yourself and who you are and what brought you here today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So yeah, I'm Adam. I have, well, if we start from the beginning, really, I've always been into sport, and rugby was my thing when I was younger, and I sort of excelled at that at a young age. So sport has always been a passion of mine, which then ultimately led to me becoming a personal trainer, which was a long time ago now. Back in 2008, I began to be a personal trainer, but that was on the gym floor, like one-to-one PT, and I was very much a busy fool back in the day, working endless hours. And then I naturally segued into online coaching. So I started that back in 2012, 2013. So again, quite a long time ago. There was quite a few more online coaches came as of COVID, didn't it? But I was kind of set up quite a long time before that. And I've just sort of utilised Facebook, Instagram, social media to grow my business, which has really just been built on client results. A really simple process of getting a client, working with the client, getting results, posting the results, and then growing the business that way. And I always found that, there's one thing, me talking about my fitness journey or posting about my training, my business really started to grow when I started to post of other clients. Because when I post about, let's say, a client, Brendan, who's 50, different clients look at Brendan and go, oh my gosh, that could be me, and they relate to that a lot more. So I utilise social media to grow it, and I've been doing it ever since. And yeah, so here we are today, and I've got a business of clients all over the world, really. Some strange locations, Qatar, India, America, Australia, Wales, Ireland, all over the place, really. I'm based in Birmingham, but yeah, the power of social media is quite good, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask you, where's your furthest away client?
Oh, it's got to be Australia, I think, yeah. Australia and
Australia.
America.
Goodness me. That's mad. It's the power of technology these days. Anything is possible almost, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is.
And yourself, so you were, was it professional rugby, semi-professional rugby? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I played professionally. So I played for England when I was younger. It's like 16s and 18s. That was
Goodness
like part of
me.
my identity. That is sort of like who I was. And then, so I was a professional rugby player for a year after I left school. I had a deferred place to Loughborough University, but I was professional for a year. And then I had that option of like, do I go down the route of trying to be a professional rugby player, or I've got this I've got this place at Loughborough University, sports science. Do I go and do that? And with a bit of persuasion from my parents, they're like, this might be the best route for you. So I went to Loughborough, studied sports science, which was a great foundation of everything I went on to do afterwards. But
Yeah.
at the time, being really honest, I didn't know I was going to be a personal trainer. And I think a lot of people have that conundrum when they finish university. They might have the degree, but they're not exactly sure what career path that leads to. And even like I had great knowledge with my sporting rugby background, and I had a sports science degree, but that didn't give me the qualifications to be a personal trainer. I then had to go and do a 3 month, that was with Premier Global back in the day. I then
Wow.
did a 3 month program intensive to become a PT. Yeah.
Okay, so what did your degree sort of qualify you for then? Was that, what was that?
So it was sports science. So we went into the anatomy and physiology, into depth
Okay.
of that. We were doing all the VO2 maxing and learning about anatomy. I think that gives you a really good foundation of all the personal training that's come since then. And then it was sports science and business as well. So even though at the time maybe I was doing modules that I thought, I'm not sure how this is going to correlate to later life, everything does full circle, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, I think in a world where a lot of people can technically, if somebody wanted to say I'm an online coach tomorrow, they can change their Instagram bio and become one. I know, like you've got a passion for learning as well, like me as well. Like I think sometimes when clients are looking for coaches, it's quite reassuring for them to actually hear of someone who has got deeper rooted qualifications, rather than just like, it's not a criticism of people because people are following their passions, aren't they? But you find a lot of, maybe somebody does one diet and then they switch and then they a personal trainer without doing any qualifications in that.
Yeah, that is actually something I wanted to touch upon because a big thing in today's sort of fitness world, especially at the cheaper gyms like the gym group or what is it, Pure Gym, they tend to like whittle out PTs like a dime a dollar, and you just think it's not that good of a training course to do. You don't learn that much. I think these people are probably learning more on the job. But yeah, I think that's really important that when you are looking for a coach to do your research and probably go with someone who does have, passion for learning more and, that experience with clients as well.
Yeah. Sometimes people message me on social media and say they're looking for a coach, and sometimes I'll be really honest. I'd say to them like, I don't think I'm the right coach for you. I'm like,
Wow.
go to your local gym, go and hire a personal trainer, because if the person is like starting from ground zero, I think the best investment you can make is in a personal trainer, and hopefully that person doesn't stand on the treadmill with you. Hopefully that person like shows you how to lift weights, the proper form, like breathing and bracing whilst doing compound lifts. And if somebody has that core foundation and they know how to train, I'm probably where you like come in next. So when
Yeah.
somebody like knows how to train, that they're doing okay, they're going to the gym, the motivation's there, but they just want to take things to the next level, and that's sort of where I step in as a coach.
Yeah, I think that's also important to understand your client base as well. Because I know years ago when I started out as a PT, and you probably experienced this as well, back in the day, when you would just go out and train absolutely everybody and anybody. Whereas once you've got that experience, how did you come to that point then where you kind of knew, who's your ideal client? What got you there?
Well, trial and error.
Yeah.
I definitely took on clients back in the day, and then you sort of realise, oh, this, it's not working sometimes. Like you've got to be honest and stuff like that. But I don't think, I've been doing it long enough now. Naturally, I think as you go through life, so if we rewound to 2013 to 2015, and you looked at me and spoke to me, I was single, I was in incredible shape, really, really low body fat. I was obsessed with the gym. I trained every day and I competed. So naturally, I would get messages of clients who wanted to compete and wanted to go
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole. Now, I'm 39, married, got my son Arthur. Family is a huge part of my life, and I naturally attract clients who are young moms, young dads, family, and maybe they have, maybe they've been in shape when they were younger, and then with the pressures of business, the pressures of families, they've let everything get on top of them a little bit, and they're like, oh, I really need some help, some guidance and accountability. So now I've got a really nice bunch of clients who are all in a relatively similar position. So you think you naturally attract clients, and I'm sure you find that, as well. People follow you and probably listen to this podcast of people who relate to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. Being able to relate to your clients. I don't know if you've seen this whole fashion on Instagram now where a lot of mums are like, oh, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, not Mrs. 21-year-old Instagram influencer. Yeah, and they're like doing all the mum stuff. But, I think don't be too hard on the 21-year-olds. They're just learning.
Yeah, be kind.
But yeah, that is something that is hard to balance is parent life. And how do you find that? Because, you said you're 39. Wow. So how do you feel about being nearly 40?
I'm re- yeah, I'm really comfortable with it. The answer isn't like, oh, I'm dreading it. Um, I think maybe years ago you thought like when you were 40 you feel really old. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm sure I don't feel really old. I feel okay. But no, I'm quite happy, quite comfortable with it.
How do you
Um,
balance that then? Because you are in, you always seem to be in phenomenal shape and you're balancing being married, having a kid, and running your own business as well as still learning and posting on social media. How do you find the time to be a good husband, be a good dad, and everything else that you're doing as well?
I have an advantage in the nature of my job. So I'm sat here, this is my home office at home, and I work from home all the time.
Yeah.
So that does allow, and I'm my own boss. I don't have a boss. I am my business. So I can put my time where I want. So it allows me the flexibility to go and do school drop off, to go and do school pickup. And if that means that I'm a little bit behind in work, I have the ability to work at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night to catch up with that. So that is probably one of the, if you were to ask me what's the one thing that you love about your job the most, it's the ultimate job that gives me the freedom and the flexibility to fit around family life. Whereas, if you had to be in the office at a set time, you couldn't take time off, parent life gets harder, doesn't it? So that massively helps. But I also have an element of, it's my identity. It's from if we're going back to, when I was 14, 15 years old, having rugby trials, I wanted to be the best rugby player in the country. I wanted to play for England. I took everything so seriously, to the strength and the conditioning. And then I became a personal trainer. When I became a personal trainer, I was like, right, I need to make this work. This is all I've got. Not as in all I've got, but all my eggs are in this basket. And that's kind of how I feel now. I'm supporting my family. This is my job. This is my role. And I feel like if I'm not practicing what I preach, if I'm not eating what I'm recommending to my clients to eat, if I'm not going into the gym and practicing what I preach, then I feel like my clients will see through me. They'll know I'm like a fraud, if that's the right word. So I like to practice what I preach and try and set the example. And that when it's your identity and you value health and that's who you are, I think it becomes a lot easier. I'm always taking on new clients and working with them. But throughout the background, I'm always consistent in the background. I'm not doing 12 weeks and then dropping off, and then I just keep chipping away and keep chipping away. But it really is truly what I love doing. Having that hour in the gym in the morning, it just sets me up for the day. It just feels amazing. And as I've got busier over the years, with that comes more clients, more pressure, more deadlines. I have to cram more work into a day. So naturally stress builds as the business grows. I'm sure anybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
Training is the ultimate thing to have in your life to offset that. And I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong, thinking, I'm really busy now, I'm really stressed, I haven't got time to train. Instead of reframing that is that I'm really stressed right now, I've got loads going on. I need to train to put me in the right headspace, to release the endorphins, to release the cortisol, to ground me, to make me more productive so I can do the work that I've got.
Yeah, that that's huge what you just said then, because so many people in life, especially myself, when it gets busy, when you've got kids, someone gets sick, something happens at home, something breaks, someone dies, stress really takes over. And then, for me, I just forget myself. I forget, oh no, I can't do anything else. I just need to spend the whole time stressing about it because that's going to help, but it doesn't help. Have you ever had a time like that where you've kind of forgot your habits and routines, or are you really so strict with it?
I think COVID was challenging. I feel like COVID, everything flipped on its head. Obviously, my wife was on furlough. Obviously, Arthur was at home all the day. I actually was in that fortunate small percentage of people where my work actually went like that. And because maybe everybody was off, everybody wanted a fitness plan, and suddenly I had this huge surge where I was like, oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do, and all the lines blended into one, so I didn't have working hours, then I wasn't switching off, I just seemed to just be permanently on. And I remember during that time, my thing is biscuits, love a biscuit. And
A bourbon.
I was just getting through the biscuit, just plowing through biscuit. And I was just I knew what I was doing. I was I'm just stress eating. I'm just emotional eating, because I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed. So I remember going through that phase. I remember looking at photos, thinking, God, I looked a bit chubby in the cheeks back then. There's all those secret digestives. But I think that was just a strange time of life for a lot of people, wasn't it? It wasn't really normal as such. But if it's a normal working week, and ever since then, I'm not a robot. I'm not perfect. I always have my treats. I love an Indian, a takeaway, a Balti. That's our little thing that I have with Amy. But I think my treat, like I will have like a chicken tikka main, a peel of rice, and a sag. It's like the healthiest, not deliberately, just because that's what I enjoy. And then I'll have that and just get straight back on track. So I do have the treats, but 90% of the time I'm consistent because that's just what I enjoy.
Wow. Do you think you've had those healthy habits from childhood then?
I think I've had the discipline built into me from
Mhm.
sport. I think that's a huge factor. I
Yeah.
feel like some of my bad habits with food, like what I just mentioned in there, have actually come from competing when I used to be a
Um,
competitor. Because, when you go through that, and I think anybody who has competed on stage, or you would have heard about people
yeah.
talk about it online as well, it's phenomenal. It's really good for personal development and challenging yourself and building self-belief and all these things. But it, the harder you restrict something, it's almost like the pendulum effect.
Yeah.
And when you go like 12 weeks and I back then I wasn't as educated as I am now. If I was to do a diet now, I'd be a lot more. I'd have little treats and flexible diet. Back then, I was just like, this is my food plan. This is what I'm following, and I just like super strict. But then once it's all over, that pendulum swings one way,
Mm.
and then it swings the other way, doesn't it? And you do have little food binges, and I do think some of my bad nutritional habits have been deep rooted from there.
Gosh, it's interesting how, it can just stem from one point and you can carry that on. Like, definitely for me, I can relate it to childhood and picking up off habits from, what my parents used to do because they're big chocolate lovers, and we'd have a big session where we'd watch a movie and just eat like shitloads of food, like popcorn, sweets, chocolate, ice cream. And that's become like, a reward culture in my own head.
Yeah.
It's so hard to break out of that habit.
Mm. No, it is, and I think I say this to parents as well. So, like Arthur's 7, my son, and I'm convinced all his nutritional habits for life are
Yeah.
set now.
Wow.
It's 100%. It's done already. Like the way he views foods, whether he tries foods or not. I think it goes back to like when you wean your child. Like a lot of the nutritional habits are built then.
Mhm.
Um, so, Arthur, but he doesn't. Just because I'm a personal trainer, he doesn't eat like avocado and broccoli. It's not like that at all. Like I'm the opposite. I feel like I want him to. I never want to say you can't have
Mm.
sweets because then it might actually work the other way. So I
Yeah.
try and, most of the time have him eat healthy foods, but then, have little treats occasionally. But yeah, a lot of his habits are already built, and you see that with, maybe some of his friends or maybe, other family members around that similar age. You see their habits are built already. So the way that you're brought up and your childhood has a huge impact for the rest of your life. And you see that as well, don't you, with, often if somebody is overweight, not all the time, but with obesity, and if you look at the parents, if both parents are overweight or say obese, they're going to pass a lot of those nutritional habits on to their children, and it's really hard to break.
Yeah, we have a really big issue in England right now of two things actually. Obesity in children, type 2 diabetes in children, and dental problems in children. Like tooth decay is massive, and their baby teeth are really important to form the structure of their jaw. And kids are having their teeth removed, and I just think, gosh, like we have a whole generation of, isn't it now where they say this generation is not going to outlive their parents?
Wow, I
Yeah,
hadn't heard that. Yeah, but it
yeah.
doesn't surprise me. But I think with your kid, if anyone's listening to this with kids, I think a really good spot to be in is that if you pull out some watermelon, some raspberries, some strawberries, like if your son or daughter gets excited about having some fruit, feel like they're in a good spot, like, and that everybody wants that. But if you're pulling out fruit and they're just repelled by fruit and they want the sugar, the sweets,
Mm.
because I think if you're overexposed to the Haribos and the sweets,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to get excited about blueberries and strawberries, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like next level sweetness, isn't it?
Yeah.
We did an experiment a while ago where we cut out processed sugars like sweets and chocolates and biscuits, because our children, they do have them, but like once a week, twice a week. And we cut it out for about 4 weeks and they still had fruit and things, but their whole demeanor completely changed. They were a lot calmer.
Yeah.
They were really excited about fruit, like you said. And then when they had sweets now, they're able to regulate themselves. They're like, oh no, I've had enough now. So if they have a piece of cake, or like it was just we had a big party at the weekend for my both boys, and they had cupcakes. And last night they had one for dessert, and they both like took one bite, and they were like, okay, I'm done now. No, so they've developed that like ability to stop. Whereas I think if children, are eating these foods all the time, like you see the little babies eating the Haribo, the sweets, they don't develop that ability, I think, to, learn self-control.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your 12-week photo shoot challenge. So if I just give our audience a brief description about what I've just been through for the past 12 weeks. So myself and my husband Jack hired Adam as our coach for his 12-week photo shoot challenge, and that is 12 weeks of accountability, consistency, programs, nutrition guidance, and at the end you do this incredible photo shoot. And between us both, we both lost 20 pounds each during this time. We had visible abs. We felt so much fitter, stronger, and happier. And at the end of the challenge, we ended up looking at the photos thinking, like, is that us? Oh my gosh. I couldn't stop crying. So if you would like to go ahead and share your reason for, like, why did you come up with that? How did you come up with that idea to do this 12-week photo shoot challenge, and why do you do it?
Yeah, well, the actual reason it started, it was back in 2016, so that shows how long I've been doing it for. So yeah, 9 years now. The reason it's continued for so long is because it's been such a success. But the actual reason I started it is I was in the gym on the cross trainer, doing cardio. Sometimes your brain just starts flowing, doesn't it, when you're doing cardio?
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast at the same time, and it was actually a business podcast, and it was talking about ways to grow your business. And the podcast was talking about collaborations, and I was there on the cross trainer, and I was like, I need to do a collaboration with someone. Who can I do a collaboration with? And these were the thought process going through my mind. And then I thought, oh, what about a photographer? If I get a photographer and then I coach a client, and then at the end they can like take the progress pictures, text Matt Marsh, and he said, like, yeah, brilliant. Because from Matt's perspective, it's kind of like, no marketing, I'll get you clients and then send you business. So it was a no-brainer for Matt. We did the first group back in 2016 and posted the results, and then it sort of snowballed from there. But I think the reason that it has been such a success is we spoke about competing very briefly. Now, a small percentage of the population have the natural ability and genetics to go on to compete. It's a very elite thing. But if we just look at the vast majority of people that go to the gym, go in training 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, just ticking over, the one thing that most people are missing is a goal. They're lacking something like a tangible goal to aim for. So what you find is that there's thousands of people throughout the country right now just going through the motions. They're kind of going to the gym, they're kind of training, they're doing a bit of cardio, but then it gets to Friday and Saturday night and their partner pulls out a bit of chocolate. They're like, oh, go on then. And they're sort of trapped in this. They're kind of doing well, but they're also kind of, got no reason to not say no to the chocolate. Yeah. So when you add in the 12-week photo shoot challenge, it's kind of saying that, like, right, step out your comfort zone, do something that scares you, because everybody is like, oh my God, this is really scary, I'm really overwhelmed. And I'm like, yeah, good. Like, when was the last time that you did something that scared you? And for a lot of people are like, I don't know, like when I was back at school or something like that, because we naturally live in our comfort zones, don't we? Yeah. So the 12-week photo shoot challenge is for those gym goers to step out of their comfort zone, do something that scares them a little bit, but gives them a tangible end goal. And it's what I say, it gives them leverage. So suddenly the small things aren't just the small things. So when you say to someone, right, you need to go for a walk because it's really helpful for you to drop body fat, they're like, okay. But then when you've reframed that, it's like, you've got a photo shoot in 12 weeks. I need you to go and walk like 8,000 or 10,000 steps every day. It's going to allow you to drop the weight to get to where you want to be. Yeah. You've just made the smallest thing in the world. You've made it bigger than it is. So then they're getting out of bed going, well, I need to go to the gym today. I've got to go to the gym today. And then when they pull out the snacks and like, no, I can't have that. I've got to stick to my diet. I've got to check in on Monday. And it just gives everything a bigger reason to do it. And I think that part of what I've explained, there's loads of reasons why, but from what I've just said, that small snippet is why it's been so successful. And then it's had quite a huge return rate as well. So people don't just do it once, they do it. They get there really nervous on the day, of course, get there and then go, a bit like you said then, when you look at the pictures, like, oh my God, is that actually me? They see it. And then like Adam did, like, I've loved this, thanks for doing it. Like, I want to do the same again next year. And then they might go away, train on their own for like 6 months, 9 months and say like, right, summer 2026, I want to do it again. And then the goal is already pre-written. I just want to be a better version than I was before. And you look at your pictures where you were before, and then you say, right, I'm going to try and do it again. And it's a really nice spot to be in when you're just competing against yourself. When it's just you versus you. If you can tap into that mindset, it's brilliant. Because again, if we talk about the competing, or if we talk about social media, it's really, really easy to compare yourself to others and put yourself down. This guy, she's leaner than me. He's got bigger arms. He's got more visible abs. And what I tell everyone when you sign up, even if 20 people sign up to the challenge, what the other 19 people look like is irrelevant. You send me a picture to start with. This is you on this set date. All you're competing with is the person that's going to be in Matt Marsh's studio in 12 weeks' time. And if you are healthier, if you have dropped weight, if you've built healthy habits, if you've backed up everything that you said you were going to do, you've followed it through, and everyone has tough times and they like consider, oh, I think I need to drop out, but you stick at it and you see it through, then like you're a winner, aren't you? And you just get this huge release of like achievement and building self-belief. And I feel like so many people do the challenge and sometimes they think it's just a training plan, it's just a nutrition plan, it's just a photo shoot. But actually, like when you speak to the people who go through it and you hear everybody's individual story, for so many people it's so much more than that, because they do that and they're like, that program, it gave me the self-belief. It's the first time I've ever actually followed a diet through. And then when they do that, they're like, well, what's next? Well, like, what can I do next? And like, if I can do this, I can do anything. And people go and sign up like, right, I'm going to go and do a half marathon now, or I'm going to go and do this, or I'm going to do that. And it gives people confidence. So yeah.
Massively. And I think from my perspective as well, like taking part in it, it was exactly what I needed. Like, and I was shit scared. And in my youth, I used to do a bit of modeling and a bit of fitness stuff. And now, like, I haven't done anything like that in years. And I was like, I can't have a photo shoot. I'm a mum now. Mums don't do that. But it was just, it was transformational, not just physically, but mentally as well, to get myself in the place where like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym and actually try and be a bit better than I was last time, and having that accountability from you saying, okay, increase the weight, try and push a couple more reps out. It was a really big push in the right direction. So yeah, I think both Jack and myself, it's been transformative. It's almost been that kind of like, we had mum and dad bods before.
Yeah.
I did lose a lot of weight before to get to that mum bod point. I was like triple mum bod before that. And then it was the right push to be like, okay, we're now the fit couple. We're, in a really great routine with things. So yeah. Do you have a lot of people do it but don't finish it?
Yeah, that always happens, which is why I always emphasize to people, like, whoever makes it to the end, I say that, like, you should be proud of yourself, because and then, it could be injuries, illness, work commitments. There's loads of reasons why. But sorry, what I was going to say, but before that, with yourself, I think for you, at the stage that you were in, specifically with your life and where you got to with your physique, it was the perfect goal for you, because if a lot of people set goals and they're too small, and if a goal is too small, it doesn't really motivate you. It's just like blah. If you set a goal that's too big and it's too overwhelming, you're like, oh, that seems so overwhelming. You almost go into your shell and like repel. So what you want is a goal right in the middle. and you done the work first, you got yourself to a stage, and you got to yourself to the stage where you lost £20, and 20 or £24 is probably the max that you can really lose in a 12-week frame. So you got yourself in touching distance in 12 weeks. So it was scary, it was overwhelming, it was a bit daunting for you, but it was achievable. And that's like when you can see it week by week, you can see your body changing, you're really motivated. Whereas if you'd maybe started it 6 months prior or 12 months prior and you had £40 to lose, no matter what you did during that 12 weeks, you were never going to get to where you could almost see abs.
Yeah.
So there is and again, I get to know who's going to sign up, and if somebody is, I can see that they're like 40, £50 away from getting that, I'll say, look, you can do it, anybody can do it, 100%. But I think what I recommend is maybe do some normal coaching first, maybe lose a stone and just get yourself to a point where you're in striking distance, so it's the perfect goal.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I can actually relate to that because, a couple of years ago, we did sign up. I don't know if you remember, and we had to drop out because I did have, unfortunately, a miscarriage at that time, which I didn't, know I was pregnant. But at that point, I was in the position where I was, a lot bigger then as well. And I remember having that in the back of my head, like, I do want to complete that challenge one day. And that kind of gave me the motivation to go on this slower weight loss journey that I was on myself. Because I think I had to almost take really baby steps to get myself to that point where I was ready to do it. And then when we did it, it was just such a, like, I don't know, it was like this weight that I'd been carrying kind of came off, and I was like, wow, I've achieved something that I wanted to do for quite a long time. So I felt very like emotional about it and very deeply proud of what I'd achieved. And I would say to anyone, if you're on a weight loss journey and maybe you have a lot more than £20 to lose, taking those baby steps doesn't last forever. It goes quick, and then all of a sudden you're 12 weeks away from your goal, and it's like, bam, the weight just comes off.
Yeah, but you done the work, hadn't you?
Yeah.
On yourself, like it's what I call the private victories happen before the public victories.
Yeah.
And you've been there at home, whether that's reading a book, listening to a podcast, understanding about emotional eating, getting to know yourself better, your identity. That's like the work that nobody sees. Like somebody might log onto my Instagram and see your before and after picture,
Yeah.
but they don't see you doing the work here. And then just like speaking from like obviously when I coached you before versus like when we've just worked together on the 12-week Photoshoot challenge, it was like two different people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just you probably weren't even aware of it, but even just the way you would reply to my messages or the way you'd send check-ins, the language in which you spoke, and that was because, and that's credit to you, the work that you'd done. So well done, you. Pat on the back.
I do want to touch on the 12-week challenge post sort of blues though, because you say, I wanted to make like a plan for after the challenge. So Jack and I, my husband, we're still working with Adam now on our future goals that we've got. Iron Man in the making. And Jack's goal is getting stronger. But I think that it's easy to kind of fall into the trap of after the 12 weeks, that's it. You're like, okay, I'm free. Let's eat all the cake in the world. And Jack and I have done a bit of that, but not, too much. But I think a lot of people who don't carry on with that guidance or have that self-accountability, which not many of us do have the tendency to potentially fall off the wagon. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's a real tendency. It's a real thing. So one of the biggest things is your mindset and how you come into it. So if we've got two people and one person views it as a 12-week program, and when they get to the end and when they have the photo shoot, it's the end. Versus somebody else has the mindset of like, I'm on this health journey for life. I'm doing a 12-week photo shoot challenge. That's the end of that chapter. Yeah. And then we continue. We go on to the next chapter. So it's not the end point. And I feel like a lot of people have struggled in the past because they view it as the end point. And this is the type of person maybe throughout the whole challenge, they'd start a new drawer in their kitchen and start piling up all the foods that they love, they crave, they miss. And they're like, as soon as this photo shoot finishes, I'm going to devour this whole cupboard. Like, I get that no matter what I say, people are always going to do that. But you see my point, like, you want to try and steer away from that. Of course, go out and have a victory meal and relax. But you want it, as long as you view it as not the end point, that's half the battle done. But then also the other half of the battle is actually having an exit strategy, is what I call it, and visualization. Because if you wake up after you do something big, and this isn't just the 12-week photo shoot challenge, this is, this is anything in life. If someone's training for a marathon and then suddenly they wake up after the marathon and they're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
There's like a void, they feel empty. Whereas if you have an exit strategy and you already know, which is actually what we did and what I did with Jack as well, we actually had a phone call, we said, like, what are your goals? So when you wake up the morning after the photo shoot challenge, you've already got a program, you already know what you're doing. It makes it a lot easier to stay motivated because you can visualize what's coming in the future.
Yeah.
What works best for a lot of people is to change the goal, because the photo shoot challenge is an aesthetic based program. So when I say aesthetic based, a lot of the metrics are your scale weight. We're looking to drop body fat, progress pictures, site measurements. You're looking for aesthetic changes on your body, and that's amazing because who doesn't want to look better? But then sometimes when the challenge finishes, you can't keep judging success by those same metrics because it's completely unrealistic to think that you're just going to continue losing weight, and it doesn't work like that. So you have to manage your expectations and understand that it's kind of like, if we use the car analogy, doing the 12-week photo shoot challenge is like you being in fifth gear, like you're going for 100%, but it's unrealistic that you can just stay in fifth gear all year round. Like, you have to periodize. And for a lot of people, periodizing might mean if your body weight's come down, we just need to go up a little bit, we need to maintain there. Like, you can't get down to like your lowest, leanest body weight and then just maintain that, because that's what a lot of people think. So that's where it's like my part as a coach to educate that actually that's unsustainable and that's actually quite unhealthy. So then start talking about reverse dieting, building your calorie ceiling back up and doing those sorts of things. So going back to your original question, it's a real thing, it's a real danger. But I feel like if you're properly goal setting and you're periodizing and you're viewing it as not the end point and you've got an exit strategy, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it will be significantly easier. And the only other thing that I've just thought of as well, it's very easy to lose perspective. And what I mean by that is that sometimes, say you're dieting really strict for 12 weeks and I've got a client and I've said to him, right, I want you to stick to 2,000 calories. And then they go over on their calorie goal one day, they've got to eat like 2,200 calories. So like, okay, right, you've gone over on your calories, no problem, we'll pull them back tomorrow. Sometimes when the 12-week photo shoot challenge is finished, and we're in like real life as such, you have to understand that like going over your calories by like 200 is like so small. It's like not irrelevant, but it's like it's borderline irrelevant. So sometimes people feel like they're off track or feel like they're having a bad day when they've gone a couple hundred calories over. I'm just like, hang on, there's people out there, sometimes when they have a bad day, we're talking about a couple thousand calories, not going to the gym for a week, not walking, not drinking water. That's kind of like a bad week, not just because you've missed one workout or gone over slightly on your calories. So people sometimes lose perspective of what a bad day is.
Yeah, and I can relate to that completely with my own self because, like this time, like 2 years ago, that was something that I really, really genuinely struggled with. And a bad day would be like a 5,000 calorie day, and I was still hungry. And I wasn't like hungry, I think it was like this void that I was trying to fill and comfort. And I've done so much work psychologically to understand why I did that. But I think a big thing for me was increasing my protein. So I went from like lifelong vegetarian, a vegan, and then I started to eat meat. And when I started to increase protein with animal products especially, for me, it really made me feel satiated. And I remember getting to a point where I was like, I actually feel full now. Whereas a couple of years ago, I could have like, I would out eat Jack, for example, because I just did not have that off switch.
Mm.
How do you think people can, establish those good boundaries in the other way? So if they do have issues with food, what would you advise them to sort of start to do?
Well, I think the three fundamental basics would, number one, start with sleep, because people sometimes overlook that. And if it's the general normal 9 till 5er who's got a family, you get the kids to bed at 7, 8, and then sometimes they're prone to just sitting and watching TV and just staying up late because that's their only time to switch off and relax. But it's all a cycle, and then they end up going to bed late, which says they wake up tired. Then they turn to caffeine or energy drinks, and they're on this vicious cycle. And I actually feel it myself, and anybody will. Like, you could be sleeping really well, you have one bad night's sleep, and your food cravings go through the roof.
Yeah.
So that's to do with your ghrelin, like your main hunger hormone in your body, and science has proved that one bad night's sleep can disrupt the ghrelin hunger hormones. So getting in control of your sleep, and I think the main thing is consistency with your sleep. So going to bed at a similar time and waking up at a similar time, all like regularly. That's one of the best things you can do. And 7 hours is obviously what's thrown out the most. But I don't mind if someone's sleeping 6 hours, but it's consistent.
Yeah.
The second thing would be water. I think it's amazing, of all the nutrition advice and training advice I give to people, I can't believe how many people, like, you speak to them, you drinking your water? I don't really drink water. I'm just like, huh? What? or if they do, it's the odd small sip of water, and people live on hot drinks, coffee, or like fizzy drinks. So just literally having a water bottle with you the whole time and drinking a couple litres of water a day. And it's transformative for someone who doesn't know what it feels like to be hydrated. And once they start doing that, if they start sleeping well, then they start hydrating. And then the third thing to layer on would be the protein, as you said. They're always the three that I start with. And if somebody's doing all of them consistently, sleeping well, drinking lots of water, eating protein with each of your main meals, like a good amount of protein, not 10 grams, like 20, 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all their problems will be fixed, but a large chunk of them will be.
Yeah, I agree with that because that's literally what, I experienced doing those things. And I think an excuse that I used to give myself was, oh, I've got kids, like I just can't get any sleep. But you can control the time that you go to bed rather than sitting there scrolling or, like you said, binge watching Netflix or something. You can go to bed, a couple of hours after you put your kids to bed. And yeah, like for me, I still have, he's nearly 4, my youngest. He's not even 4 yet. And he woke up like 5 times last night. You can't control that, yeah. But you can control, going to bed a bit earlier and then maybe having a gentler morning. But yeah, that's another thing as well that I wanted to touch upon during your, when you're coaching clients. Life happens and, you can easily fall off track. How would you suggest to people when life does happen, when you don't get the sleep or something happens, to get back on track again?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really helped me is not any like the Loughborough University or even the qualifications, Premier Global, any of that sort of stuff. I think the thing that's helped me the most with consistency is a lot of the self-development books that I've read. And the two that are like top of the pile, that I always think if you had to read 2 books to help your habits, your consistency, and just your whole mindset around consistency and how the little things matter, would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's like the one everyone throws out. It's like the GOAT, the number one. But the second one will be The Slight Edge by Noah Olson.
Haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, that was recommended to me by someone else, and I read that. And the whole premise of the book is of just like how all the little things matter,
Yeah.
and doing the little things again and again and again. Like, nobody notices you're doing them, and like this is somebody that's doing them and somebody that's not, and you're kind of just the same for so long, and then eventually you're just like so far apart. It's because of all the things that you're doing in private when nobody's looking, when nobody's watching you. Nobody knows what time you're going to bed. Nobody knows if you're scrolling on your phone. But if you keep doing the right things, you'll reap the rewards of that. So that book really resonated with me. So that helps. But then probably one more thing would be, not everybody can afford a coach. Having a coach is a privilege, but one of the huge benefits of a coach is accountability. And you have a weekly review. You're tracking metrics to make sure that you're on track. And generally, I find that most people who are air quote off track, and obviously if they haven't got a coach, they don't track anything. So they're not tracking how many steps they do each day, or they're not recording their workouts in the gym, or maybe just jumping on the scales like once a month to just keep a ballpark. Because if you're just tracking some metrics, you can keep an eye on things, and even if somebody was to jump on the scales, you're like, okay, my weight's come up like 5 pounds in the last month, it's trending up. That could be like, I need to make some changes. Whereas if so many people don't jump on the scales for like a year, 2 years, and then suddenly they're like, it got away from them and they've put on a huge amount of weight. But even like just tracking your steps, if you just set yourself a small goal, even if it's to do 6 or to do 8 or to do 10,000 steps a day, like track it to keep yourself consistent. And if you miss it for one day, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's all about your weekly averages. It's all about what you do the majority of the time, because nobody has a great physique or a great body because they ate well or trained well or did 10,000 steps one day. It's all about the consistency over time.
Yeah, that's it. And the ability to like forgive yourself as well, because I used to be like stuck in the shame cycle of like, oh, I've ate this, and then I would feel shame, but then I'd carry on eating more food to kind of comfort myself. Whereas when I started to be like, oh, it's okay, like I had a bad day yesterday, but that's okay. It doesn't mean to say it needs to carry on today. That kind of like flipped the lid, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I think most of the time when I'm doing check-ins with a client and somebody will say like, Adam, I've had a really bad day, most of the damage is in their top 2 inches rather than physiologically. And they beat, which is kind of your point, they beat themselves up like, and they feel really bad about themselves, but actually physiologically, they talk about the 3,500 calorie rule, don't they? So 1 pound of body fat is approximately, there's loads of small variables, but it's approximately 3,500 calories. So for a normal person, if their maintenance calories are, let's say, 2,000, you would have to overeat by 500 calories, so 2,500 calories, and do it 7 days on the trot, and that would equal 1 pound of body fat. And if you did it again and again and again, that's how you gain weight. The reason why this is such a good example is if you end up having a Mars bar tonight and that Mars bar is like 200 calories, it's perspective.
Yeah.
In your head it feels like you've done really bad, but if you literally draw a line under it and get straight back on track and have a healthy rest of the week, you will not gain body fat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it is more damaging in your mind, psychologically. Yeah. I wanted to ask you some quick fire questions now. So these are ones that I ask everyone who comes on, and yeah. So the first one is, do you have any rituals that you do daily, or any non-negotiables?
Yeah, morning routine. So I wake up, I actually have an old man supplement pill box that says that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They're absolutely amazing, by the way. Everybody should get one. So I pop my pill box, have my daily pills, have my electrolytes, have a morning coffee, and then walk the dog. So it's like a really nice like morning routine, and that is the same like every single day. It doesn't change.
What supplements do you take?
At the moment, there's glucosamine in there, which is for my knee. I've got a sore knee. Vitamin C, vitamin D. What else is in there? There's one more at the moment. Oh, you put me on the spot. Vitamin C, vitamin D, omega-3 fish oils.
Ah, there we go. Is there one supplement, because I know you're quite into like nutrition and supplements, is there one thing that you would recommend everyone to take?
I think just one. If you had to go for just one, maybe vitamin D3.
D3.
Vitamin D3 is amazing, especially if you're in England. You listen to this, we don't get enough sunlight. That would be really good. If I had to go and throw in one more, I think magnesium is amazing. Most people don't sleep well. Most people are busy head syndrome. Most people have got elevated stress. So magnesium glycinate, like 90 minutes before bed, is phenomenal at calming your central nervous system and promoting a deeper sleep.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever experienced Epsom salts baths.
Yes, love them.
Yeah, and I find they really help me sleep. Okay, next one. Describe what wellness means to you.
Oh, that's a good question. What wellness means to me? Um, I guess it means getting to the weekend, putting on some clothes, feeling confident in my clothes, and then feeling fit and healthy to run around with Arthur. So if he wants to run to the park and play football, I'm like, yeah. If he wants to go swimming, I'm not afraid to take my top off and go in the pool with him. Or if he wants to build Lego on the floor, I've been doing my stretching and whatnot, I just get on the floor with him fine. And I just feel fit, healthy, and agile.
Oh, that's lovely. What message would you like to send to all our listeners out there? Is there any top tips or any words of advice?
On
Any
improving anything.
wellness, just anything in the world, first thing that comes to your mind.
Read more. Start with those two books. Read about personal development. Read about yourself. I think nothing will help your consistency more. And if you think of the iceberg analogy, everybody's seen like the tip of the iceberg above the water. I think that below the ocean, a lot of that is working on you. And I don't think enough people read. You know, we all flick social media, but I think reading is gone, and nothing makes me feel better when I read. I try and do like 20 minutes a day of a book. It just calms me, you improve your knowledge, and I think that has a huge impact onto the above the ocean, the stuff that everybody sees. But a lot of people struggle to be consistent, and I feel like that is a huge part.
Yeah. How would you add in that consistency with reading? What worked for you with it?
I just set myself a daily goal of reading for 20 minutes. Got a little egg timer on my desk, set it for 20 minutes. I really struggle with my phone, like not phone addiction, but constantly checking because my business is online. So what helped me is using blocking apps. So literally like block my phone for half an hour, turn it upside down. Because sometimes I'll be reading and like naturally you'll go and grab your phone. 'Cause it's just impulse, isn't it? I think everyone does it. And then like, okay, yeah, it's blocked, put it back down and just read.
Wow, I think that's great. I think that's important. Yeah, definitely. How can our listeners contact you and work with you? Do you have social media?
The best way is probably Instagram. Everything else sort of flows from there. So my handle on Instagram is just my name. So it's at Adam James Parr, Parr.
Oh, brilliant. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes below. Thank you so much for coming on the
I
podcast.
enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
It's been brilliant having you on. And to all our listeners, just make sure that you tune in next week for the next episode.